Reminder to our listeners, today's podcast is presented by Spotify, podcast and music for every mood. I was down at Rogers Center recently talking music with Boston Red Sox rookie Michael Chavis, and he grew up just outside Atlanta, so his musical tastes are kind of bifurcated. He loves country, but with Atlanta being the epicenter of Southern hip-hop, he's big into rap. He was saying to me that when he had control of the aux cable or was choosing the music in the clubhouse, his transitions from one genre to another were so abrupt, his teammates would be like, yo, chill. But he was like, quote, I'm here for them. I'm here for the transitions. Anyways, so nevertheless, he digs Garth Brooks, but he also digs Tupac and Migos, who hail from Atlanta. And you can find Migos tracks naturally on the Spotify playlist, The Sound of Atlanta, Georgia, U.S. Pivoting a bit here. As of Monday, the 2019 MLB draft is underway, which means Craig Kimbrel and Dallas Keuchel are no longer tied to draft pick compensation, which was the last pretext that teams were citing for not signing the free agent All-Stars. I'm not the first person to say it. Free agency is broken, and this system needs to be overhauled. When the current collective bargaining agreement was ratified, the new system of free agency, the qualifying offer system, was ostensibly introduced to make free agency more favorable to the players, but that clearly hasn't been the case. It seems now that if you give teams and owners any license to not sign players, not spend money, it looks like they will cling to it and exploit that. And that very much seemed to be the case with these two guys. Nevertheless, that's done with now. The pretexts are done. The phony justifications can no longer be invoked. So we'll see what the market looks like for these two really, really talented and effective pitchers. So the question is now, do you see Keuchel or Kimbrel signing pillow contracts that will enable them to re-enter free agency next offseason unencumbered by draft pick compensation, or do you see them signing long-term deals at this point? Because neither one of them are old, right? Keuchel is 31, and I think Kimbrel is now 30. Yeah. So what do you see? How do you see the market shaping up for these guys?
I don't think there's going to be any, huge lineup for their services or anything. It's not like this was a thing that some teams were waiting for, but it's not going to cause this huge lineup for their services, like bidding war or what have you. So I do think Kimbrel can still nail a multi-year deal. Probably not in the neighborhood of the $90 million he was looking for.
Well, he wanted upwards of 100. He wanted the biggest deal ever for a relief pitcher. He wanted more than Aroldis Chapman got. Chapman got 90. I think Kimbrel was looking for something in the realm of like 100 to 120 even.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for a closer, even the best one of all time. But
you're going to get flack for that. I got flack for that. We've both gotten flack for suggesting that Craig Kimbrel is the greatest closer of all time.
It's time for us to just realize it. Like Mariano Rivera, I don't really want to go on this rant right now, but it's coming. So
give her.
Mariano Rivera was unbelievable from the time he was 30 until he retired, which is what makes a Hall of Famer. It's true. But Kimbrel's degree of output from the time he broke into the league until he was 30 is unprecedented. Nobody has been this good ever.
Not even close, really.
And yeah, like he already has 300 saves before he's 30. He's the only one with an ERA plus.
Well, yeah, of the pitchers with 300 career saves or more, Kimbrel leads in all-time save conversion rate, strikeout rate, park-adjusted ERA, and park-adjusted FIP.
Exactly. So, of course, he hasn't gone through the decline phase, but even comparing to only the 30-year-olds, he's the best. Anyways, doesn't matter.
We digress.
Yes. I still think he can get like a 360-year deal or something like that, and honestly, I think that's relatively fair market value for him. And I think it would behoove him to take a deal like that instead of taking possibly a 1-year deal that's like really only going to pay him, even if he takes like a 1-year, 25?
He's not getting 25 for a half season of work.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
No chance.
So plus it would be a prorated deal. So he's getting like literally half of that. He would get the $12.5 million. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see that being of value and entering next offseason not attached to draft pick compensation.
Especially if he's bad. Like if he has a really rough second half or, rough 3 months of work, like his market is going to be even less hospitable than it is right now.
Yeah.
Or than it was this past offseason.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like the evidence of a closer signing, I mean, no closer this good has been a free agent this late into the season. So we're not really fairly comparing him. But like when Jake Arrieta signed late, he needed some time to warm up. Stuff like that. So like there's a case to be made that he might actually need some time to warm up, and like needing time to warm up already halfway into the season, not great. So I do think, yeah, he can grab a multi-year deal. I'm hesitant to believe that Keuchel can or will.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. It's certainly not best that he does take a 1-year deal, but I can't see. I mean, he's still a very good number 3, and I'm sure he was, banking on some roster changes. I hate to say it out loud, I suppose, but like injury troubles to happen to starting rotations of contenders.
Yeah, that moves the market.
Yeah. Obviously, he's not hoping for that, but it would help his market. So, but that really hasn't happened that much mid-season. The Yankees were dealing with it early in the year, and nothing has really changed other than the Yankees' forfeiture of a pick. So, I don't know.
So where do you see, if you had to hazard a guess, where do you see Craig Kimbrel ending up? Let's start with Kimbrel.
Okay. Kimbrel, I was going with the Chicago Cubs. I do. They were recently tied to him because Ben Zobrist hit the restricted list, and they'll no longer be owing him the $9 million roughly that's remaining on his deal. So some money opened up for the Cubs, and they were so hesitant to spend really anything of value this past winter.
Yeah, who was their biggest acquisition?
Descalso?
Yeah, might have been Daniel Descalso.
Yeah. That's
Which is
right?
crazy.
Yeah,
they did spend the entire winter crying poverty.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's so strange.
It's weird for like one of the richest teams in baseball to do that, but honestly,
no one loves crying poverty more than the rich, though.
That's
generally.
True. Yeah.
Anyways,
that's true. But yeah, I just like the Cubs bullpen has been terrible.
Dumpster fiery.
Carl Edwards Jr. My goodness.
You have Carl's Jr. on the brain.
Yeah.
Man needs a burger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has been awful, and I really like his ability to miss bats. Like he's always been a high strikeout, high walk guy, but like he's never been a allowed 2 home runs per 9 guy, which is bonkers. Anyways, I think he went down and solved his delivery issues, came back up, and now he's smoothened that delivery that had that hitch in it. So I think going forward, he will be fine. But like Pedro Strop hasn't been good. Brandon Morrow's injured.
Then otherwise it's like Brad Brock and Brandon Kinsler, who are okay, but those aren't guys you want handling the 8th inning or 9th inning in a pennant race.
Yeah. So I think Kimbrel would be a great fit there. And yeah, they're in a position where they kind of need to add at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done a good job proving the pundits' collective pessimism about them to be misguided, unfounded. The Cubs have been good, but they're certainly not infallible, and it's going to be a dogfight in the Central, just as we predicted. The Cardinals haven't been as good as we anticipated. They started off hot, but have really struggled since. But the Brewers are legit, and it's going to come down to probably the Cubs or Brewers, but there's not going to be one team really that jumps out. I think it's sort of up for grabs, but the Cubs need an edge to keep up with the reigning division champs in Milwaukee.
Where do you have Kimbrel going?
I think he goes back to Atlanta. They also need help at the back end. Vizcaino's gone, and they don't really have a ton of punch there. They were also fairly stayed financially this past offseason. They brought in Josh Donaldson, didn't do a whole lot else, and they're in the thick of their competitive window. They won the division last year. They've been pretty darn good this year. They have a really talented core. They just need a little extra piece, I think, to get over the hump and really distinguish themselves and keep them and ensure that they stay in the division race for the remainder of the season. And I mean, Craig Kimbrel, the rest of the way, might only provide, a win, maybe a win and a half in marginal value, but that could prove to be the difference in the National League East, where the Phillies have been really good, and even though the Mets haven't been great and the Nationals have certainly disappointed, that could still end up being a really, really close division race. So that extra, win and a half that Kimbrel could provide could be crucial, and it just seems like a really logical fit. Like, they need help at the back end. He's there. He spent years in Atlanta and was really prosperous there, and presumably, has fond memories of his time there, and it's a place that he would want to return to. So I think he ends up with the Braves.
Yeah, I like that pick. Almost the same things I said about the Cubs can be said about the Braves in that
they're in similar positions.
Almost nothing has gone right for that bullpen. Like, Luke Jackson's been okay. Other than that,
are you suggesting that relievers are bad, even the good ones?
I am suggesting that.
Rebetco, folks. Rebetco. Yeah, totally. So where do you have Dallas Keuchel? Oh, no, you have another point.
Yes, one more point.
Make a point.
And even though the Phillies lead the division, the Braves are actually narrowly the favorites to win by Fangraphs probabilities.
Is that right?
So, yeah, I do think they need to add as well. Those are tough races. Both the NL Central and NL East are tough races. We knew this going into the season, and both teams.
Really the only two compelling division races, as we anticipated. Well, I mean, the American League, the American League East is interesting, but we know it's going to be one of two teams, maybe three teams, but we'll see about them Rays.
Go Rays.
Yeah. So where does Dallas Keuchel end up?
For all the reasons I alluded to earlier, I think he goes to the Yankees. The forfeiture of a pick was the earliest they would have had to forfeit number 38, which they used to take TJ, I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Sycamore, a pitcher. So that's an early pick to forfeit. They can at least credibly use the excuse of a draft pick forfeit.
Can they?
A little bit. A little.
If there's one team that needs cheap labor, it's the New York Yankees, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the idea of ever using that as an excuse. To be fair.
Pretext.
However,
I think if anything for the Yankees, it would be about luxury tax concerns because they didn't sign any huge names this offseason. They didn't sign Manny Machado. They didn't sign Bryce Harper, but they signed DJ LeMahieu and made some other additions that were more low-key. They signed Jay Happ. They brought back Zach Britton. They signed Adam Ottavino, and I think they are maybe over the luxury tax threshold, which, that shouldn't be an excuse either. They have more money than God. They're the New York Yankees, but nevertheless, it's something that they could plausibly invoke as an excuse.
And despite all of the injuries, they're in a very strong position to win that division.
Which is just bananas.
Yeah.
Luke Voit and Giovanni Urshela and Domingo Germán leading the Yankees to glory just as we all anticipated.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So honestly, they might not be in a position where they think they need to add because they're going to presumably get all of their injured literal all-stars back and then be in a bit of a roster crunch. But I don't know if Luis Severino pitches this year.
Yeah.
And you kind of need somebody to take the ball in the postseason, right?
Masahiro.
Yeah.
But I feel you. And Paxton has already missed time this year with injury, and you're always sort of skeptical that he'll be able to stay on the field. So I get it. I understand the fix. And a lefty, who gets a ton of ground balls at Yankee Stadium, that can work. That could definitely work. You force the opposing team to stack the lineup with right-handed hitters maybe, and they can't take advantage of that short porch. It works. I dig it.
Yeah. Where do you have Keuchel going?
I think he goes to the Phillies because I think they also recognize, much like I'm presuming the Braves would, that they need a little bit extra to ensure that they stay in the hunt in the NL East. The Phillies, I think, need an addition at the back end of their rotation to ensure that they don't squander their position right now. I mean, as good as, say, Zach Eflin and Jake Arrieta have been. Aaron Nola's been okay. Obviously, he's not in jeopardy of losing his spot, but the back end has been really messy for them. Nick Pavetta's been terrible. He actually got sent down to the minors. He was so bad. Jared Eichhoff hasn't been good either. Vince Velasquez has been okay. They don't have a lot of options that I think they're terribly confident in. And when you get into a pennant race, I don't know that they would be comfortable sending out those guys for big starts in August and September. Dallas Keuchel's been there before. He's won a Cy Young. He's pitched for some really good Astros teams. He's battle tested. All the sort of qualitative elements. He checks all those boxes, and he's a perfectly fine pitcher. And honestly, him moving from the American League to the National League, where he gets to pitch against a non-hitter once every 9 at-bats, that'll only do wonders for him. And, he doesn't have to be the ace on that team. They have Arrieta. They have Aaron Nola. He can slide in as their 3, and all of a sudden, your postseason rotation is looking pretty darn good.
Yeah.
You go maybe Nola if he turns it around, or Arrieta game 1, Keuchel the lefty in game 2, and then the other right-hander, either Arrieta or Nola in game 3. That's a pretty good postseason rotation, and I would be remiss if I didn't note that even though they signed Bryce Harper, even though they signed Andrew McCutchen, even though they traded for JT Realmuto, even though they signed David Robertson, the Phillies only increased their year-over-year outlay financially like $40 million from 2018. Like, they are not even close to the luxury tax threshold, and I could actually see them giving him that potentially 3-year deal and keeping him as part of the core that they've assembled, keeping him for Realmuto's the remainder of his contract, keeping him for the remainder of Andrew McCutchen's 3-year deal. They've identified certainly a long-term window, but also a medium short-term window of about 3 years where they really want to capitalize and win a World Series title. I could see them giving Dallas Keuchel a 3-year deal, absolutely, and that just seems like a really good fit for both parties.
The bonus to signing Keuchel that I think we're kind of missing too is the fact that you're getting a really, really fresh arm. This guy is known for eating innings. He was a little shorthanded last year, but still, he'll be fresh when it comes postseason time. He may not be great the first month or maybe 2. He might need some time to warm up. But once the postseason comes, he kind of seems like a guy who could develop the smell too. He could be one of those guys, right? So
Smellless Keuchel.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like that pick. The only shot I do have against the Phillies is that they would have forfeited pick number 99, which would have been
oh, you hate to see it.
No. I mean, that's one of the lower picks a contender would have had to forfeit. So if this was what they were waiting for, why were they waiting? That's my only skepticism with the Phillies.
Yeah, well, John Middleton, their owner, pledged to spend stupid money this past offseason. He didn't spend stupid money. He spent some money.
Yeah.
Some might even say many, many monies. But stupid money? I don't think so.
Yeah. Just, stupid money for you and I would have.
Yeah.
If I walked into the bank and asked for that, they would arrest me.
Would you kindly leave now without making a scene? Thank you, sir.